We'll be looking at data. Data is a very, 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 very valuable asset in this digital economy. Now, we see that from business growth to economic transformation, data is revolutionizing decision-making, innovation, and efficiency. Now, I won't be here to talk to you about it. I have someone who's been sort of an expert in the conversation. Joining me in the studio today to talk is Dr. Enoch Haruna, a development consultant and also the managing partner, DevX Strategy. Good morning, Dr. Haruna. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now, so data has been described as the new oil. We keep hearing it. It's the new oil in the digital economy. Let's just start with the basics. What exactly is data?
I mean, data is literally zeros and ones. That's the easiest way to define it, but it's basically what drives how we act or what we do unconsciously, and even when we are not consciously and unconsciously, we are driven by data. What we had, for example, now, how did you know to wear the scarf? It's data you picked probably when you were younger, that this looks good on you, and it's literally driving the decision you are making today. So that is data. Okay,
so now, how is data valuable in a business environment?
Oh, beautiful question. So for starters, right, you know how before now, Nigeria is catching up to that ideology, but before now, business is driven, or decision in business is driven by data, should be backed by data. For example, why should I want to set up my business in Abuja and not in Lagos? That should be driven by the fact that I had researched the data, I had gathered the data, and I found that my best customers are in Abuja and not in Lagos. So if you're going to take any decision in business, come from the standpoint of data is the only sure banker for you to be able to succeed in whatever it is you do. So data basically is supposed to be the reason or what backs decision taking in business.
All right, now, how does data-driven decision-making improve efficiency? Because you're saying it backs it, but how does it actually improve efficiency and profitability for Nigerian businesses? Let's hone it down to our home country.
So, practical example, I'll give you an example of what you've said now. Being efficient is saying doing things the best possible way, right? And rather than just saying, okay, you did before now, you gave some statistics around commodity prices, right? And you spoke about what is working in the market, and I heard those prices. Now imagine I want to do a commodity business in Abuja, and I decided I was going to buy XYZ things and come sell them. Now, instead of having to go and buy from Kano or wherever it is and bring it to Abuja, I come to watch your show and I pick the data for 4 weeks, a whole month. Every Wednesday morning, I come, I take note of what the prices are. I now use that to decide what I want to buy, what commodity. I want to focus on what is the most stable amongst commodity. It now makes it efficient. What I'm doing is that I'm avoiding the ability to not waste money. Rather than just standing as, okay, import 10 cartons or 10 tons or metric tons of tomatoes from Kano and bring it here. Not knowing that the price have pivoted or the prices are now terrible. But guess what? If I sit by data and I look at the feedbacks you are giving for the next 4 weeks, I can realize that rather than doing tomato, it's better I do rice. Rice is more stable. If I buy rice today, I won't be at a loss next week. So for me, that is how you become efficient if you're using data to drive whatever decision you are making in business.
Okay. Now, SMEs. Yes. Before we go to big corporations, I want to believe that big corporations actually utilize it, but do you think that SMEs, especially in Nigeria, are utilizing, data, or is there still a gap in adoption?
So I'm so ashamed to admit it, because one of the things that I advocate for, which is living by data, right? But the truth is that in terms of adoption, it is very low. And it comes from the mentality. There's this notion, unwritten notion, nobody can tell where it came from, that believes that there is no data in Nigeria. There's that saying that we are not a data-driven country. We don't have infrastructure. I beg to differ. We might not be as big as the European world. We might not have all the infrastructure to ensure that there's that readily available data, but there is data. It is there. But in terms of the adoption, it is low for SMEs, because I'll give you a practical example. I just gave an example of the commodity market, which is the place where the SMEs play. And all they need to capture data is to listen to you on Wednesday morning, and they will gather this data. But for us, we believe that, how are we sure that Chiamaka is actually giving us something that is real? Where did she get that data from? So it's an attitude problem towards
the data
itself.
To be sure, but that's not a wrong thing, really, is it? To question if the data is correct.
I do agree that you should question data, but I mean, it's national television. If somebody is giving you data from national television, and I assume that at the end of your program, you are going to roll out a couple of credit to say that, okay, these are the people, these are the enumerators we had used who had gone to the field. And like you even said, you spoke about Garki market and that market to prove that this data is verifiable.
Okay.
So I do agree you should question data, but I believe that there is some extent a body of knowledge that makes data coming from that place accreditable.
Okay.
And national TV should be one of such.
Okay. All right. Now, before let's go back a bit.
Okay.
In cases where there is no data, no available data really, and I wanted to start a business, how do I go about acquiring the data to make the informed decision in that business?
Beautiful. So I will answer that question, but I'll also give you a twist. I don't believe there's no data.
Okay.
No matter how little.
Okay.
You just need to do deep searching to get it.
Okay.
But let's even say it's a new ecosystem, right? A subsector that didn't exist in Nigeria. So if you can't come and get that data, how do I then get data? You do the research yourself.
Okay.
Right? There are different types of surveys you could do. You could do the questionnaire, you could do the engaging, the interviews, but you can actually, you should invest into that background. And for example, before you start a business, what we are used to in Nigeria is called the business plan. But in honesty, the roadmap is that you start with a feasibility study before the business plan.
Okay.
And the whole essence of the feasibility study is to actually gather data, verify data, to be able to tell you whether or not this business is worth doing.
Okay.
So without doubt, you should gather the data, and you can do it through many of the possible data collection ways. It could be interviews, it could be surveys. Let's use a case study, for example. You want to start a fashion business,
okay,
right, in Abuja, and you want to do classy, luxurious dresses like what you're wearing, and you want to find out, will people buy?
Okay.
There's basic ways to do. You could set up a poll on social media. You could set a poll with your immediate network,
okay,
and you do a poll, you create a sample size. You say, okay, I'm going to try 50 people, 50 of my friends who probably will buy, and do a poll on WhatsApp, as little as WhatsApp. You can do polls on WhatsApp, and you send to every one of them and say, well, how much will you pay for a dress like this? How often will you buy a dress like this? And all of this information will let you know whether or not you actually have a customer for your business or not. So if, for example, you say you want to sell this dress for 300,000 per pair, and you now do that poll for 50 people, and all of them, only 2 people tell you that they can pay for that dress, that automatically tells you from bootstrapping from your immediate network that you have no market for that business.
Okay. So now, small businesses and startups, how could they use data for customer? You've actually given it to us for customer insights now. You've seen that. You said that already. Now, about marketing and sales growth, because you've already given us how to start the business. Now, how do we drive the business with data?
Beautiful. So what I'll say is that you're going to go all marketing, right? Everybody does that. When you get into business, you want to go into marketing, right? But you must also be able to set out the metrics that are important. Okay. I'll give you an example. This is a very common thing I see with a lot of clients that we have worked with in the past. I did sponsor that. Everybody wants to do sponsor out on Instagram, right? And I got 1,000 impressions. I got a 300,000 likes. Okay. But you see, beyond all of those impressions and likes, the metrics that you need to focus on is the conversion of that likes into actual sales. Okay. Now we're going to how data impacts sales, right? Okay. So you do all of that marketing, and you now find that at the end of all of that marketing, investing in our sponsored ads, how many people came or how many people bought your product as a result of that marketing. Now, what that data will tell you is whether or not you are doing the right type of marketing. Okay. So if I spend 100,000 on sponsored ads on Instagram, and out of 1,000 likes, nobody buys my product through that, it means that that particular pattern of marketing might not be working for me. Okay. Now, that's data giving you information. Okay. So you either change your strategy. Maybe you're just doing still pictures. Maybe try videos. Okay. And you try video, you still get the same thing. It means that social media is not your sales pattern or your best conversion medium for customers. Okay. So you might need to try something else. Okay.
Now, so what role does data analytics play in reducing operational cost and enhancing efficiency?
Beautiful question. So data analytics is saying that, okay, we have gathered all of this data. Now we need to make sense out of this data, right? And that's a mistake we make also. We believe that we can analyze that data ourselves. Sometimes it depends on the scale of your business. It's very important that you get somebody to do that for you, right? And once you are able to analyze that data, right, you are able to understand whether or not you are going in the right way. Should I pivot or should I persevere in that business, right? And analytics answers that question for you. It tells you whether or not you should. So I'll give you an example. I don't know if you know the story. You know, a lot of businesses have pivoted in the past. One very popular example, I can't really remember. I think it's Marriott. Marriott started as a coffee shop, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a coffee shop or a bakery, something like that. But you know what happened? Their stores were always buy on the way they moved to having their stores on the way to the airport because they realized that a lot of their working customers were customers who were coming in trying to get the last coffee before they catch a flight. And they kept on, they noticed coming with luggages, and they started asking questions, gathering the data. Having analyzed data, they realized that if most of our clients are people who are on their way to catch a flight, in other words, the other customers have taken coffee in their house, they don't necessarily need a quick fix. Why not have our stores by the airport? And it became a thing. Most Marriott across the country, across the world, are usually close to the airport. And Marriott has now moved from being a coffee brand to now being a hotel.
Okay.
But that data, that analysis, analyzing that data has kind of driven all they have done in their business model.
Wow. Now, can businesses use data to predict market trends and consumer behavior in Nigeria? Okay, you're smiling because we know we are very amazing people. So, can that happen in Nigeria? It's not the tricky. Idealism, the reality.
It's tricky. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's tricky. I'll tell you why it's tricky. The ideal Nigerian buyer is very unpredictable.
Okay.
We're impulsive.
Okay.
I'll give you a practical example, right? I had a couple of clients that were into restaurants, and there was one we had to do a couple of work for before they had set up. And one of the things I told the person, I was very brutal. I said, you're going to make the first month. Make up your mind that the sales you make the first month might not be consistent for the next of the year, because there's a habit, and I'm sure you can confirm this to me, whereby if there's a new fancy restaurant in Abuja, everybody wants to go there and take pictures.
Yes.
That is the user persona of the average Nigerian man. We are impulsive. We do things for the glam. We do things because it's trending. We are not consistent. So for me, what that tells me is this. Data can also help you. I'm thinking about this right now. What data tells you is that your user persona, your customers are not consistent. You have to spice things up consistently to keep their appetite. It's a lot, but that is the market we are in Nigeria. There's no brand loyalty, so to say. So it means that after the first 3 months, we are all top of the chart. We need to do something. We need to do some form of branding to keep us consistent in the hearts of the people. So, for example, now let's say we have this restaurant. In the next few months, we might decide that we want to go from being all green infusion to doing man-made something to get people excited to come back, eat our food, and take pictures. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the Nigerian user.
All right, now, how can data improve government decision-making and economic planning?
Now I'm excited. So for me, I'm sorry to say, but that is one part data has not penetrated as much in Nigeria. And I mean, I'm not a politician by any, but I hope not to even be a politician, right? But I would give big credence to this government. It is one government that has been big on data. A practical example is even the ministerial town hall meeting. This is one government that has been consistent in it than other. And what those town halls do is that you are reporting to the people, but you're also able to take feedback, data, to be able to drive the initiatives that you take. This is one government where we have seen ministers respond to people on LinkedIn. I have seen a couple of ministers called out that I believe this is your initiative, blah, 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 and the man goes and reply. I mean, I would mention him. One person who has done it very, and he is the custodian for data, is Dr. Bosu Tijani. He has been very, very, I have given so much credence to him and his team in terms of listening to what the people are saying and using that to take decision in whatever they are building. I believe we can do more. And for me, what I mean by that, or what I look forward to, is whereby budgets in Nigeria is driven by the data that was carried or captured in the year before. Why should we spend $1 billion on a particular intervention? What happened? Now, how do we do this? In gathering data, right? In doing M&E, there's baseline, there's midline, there's endline survey. At the end of every year, we should be able to do endline surveys on the initiative and the things that the government is doing to be able to see, were the milestones achieved? Were these things as impactful as we thought they would be?
Or hoped it would be.
Yes, that will now determine whether or not we will bankroll that initiative in the years to come. So I'm ashamed to say it, but we are not doing so much, but I'm hoping with what we have seen that we can do more in the years to come. For me, my dream of a proof that Nigerian government is taking decision by data is, like I said, when our budgets are now data driven. That the initiative or the places we put money is as a result of the reviews that we have done in the previous year and the demands of the people.
All right, now, what sectors, because you brought it about the budget,
yes,
what sectors of the Nigerian economy can benefit from data-driven innovations?
I'll give you a practical example, which is the one that I can't wrap my head around. Till today, and because you were talking about it before the program, we keep on saying that we cannot estimate the Nigerian PMS consumption. I don't understand that. Because that's one of the biggest problems we have, because we're not able to tell or how much petrol we could import before the Dangote and a couple of other refineries are springing up. Yeah. The biggest problem, or what caused scarcity, the feedback we got was the fact that we could not estimate the Nigerian PMS daily usage. That's impossible. This data exists. The fact that we have not put in the work to actually analyze that data. So imagine if we could actually do that. We are able to say this is our average consumption. What that does for us, that it helps us to be able to actually ensure that scarcity never exists in Nigeria again. From the layman's perspective, you and I know that petrol consumption rate is higher during the Christmas time, because that's when we travel the most. A man can be in Abuja all through the year, but in Christmas he's going to travel back to the east or to the west or wherever he's from. That is preliminary data. That's even on cultural data, so to say. But we need to be able to capture the data so we can prepare and mitigate for things like petrol scarcity. We're bigger than that as a nation.
Okay. So last question, because we have to round up.
Not a problem.
Now, what measures, because away from just data, it's now we talk about privacy. It's very important.
Thank
so
you.
What measures should companies take to safeguard consumer data and prevent breach? Because at times people find it hard to answer polls because they're wary that the information is out there.
So for starters, I think that every organization, like we do in our organization with most organizations that we're concerned for, is to create data policies. It's very important that these things drive and safeguard the data of your staffs. I'll give you a practical example, and I'm going to say this to you, it might be shocking to you. Everybody's on ChatGPT, but do you know ChatGPT is open source? What that means is that whatever you put in there is accessible by the organization that is driving that innovation, that is driving that particular tool that you are using. So that already has exposed you. It means that a lot of our Chiamaka is already on the web.
So the way I think,
the way you think, the patterns,
yes.
Good. So that prediction, that's deep learning. So I'm able to predict your thought pattern. I'm able to predict the things you will see or the things you even look forward to. Based on the fact that you have already engulfed yourself in open source, and you have given a lot of data. Now, organizations need to begin to spend money. One of the things that you could put in your data policy, and not use open source softwares to gather data or implement or do things that have to do with your organizational data or staff's data. You need to pay money. So I'll give you an example. Rather than using Google Form, which is free, why not pay for a survey for SurveyMonkey, which gives you full data privacy? Instead of using ChatGPT, why not use DeepSeek?
No, there, right here.
Did I step on you?
I can see that you're trying to push the whole China, America. Well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Okay, so that's too much we can take today on Business Daily. I hope you've understood how data can help your business, not just in your business, even in your personal life, how it's very, very important. And of course, how to protect yourself from having your data out there and being used against you. Same time, same place tomorrow. Do stay with us on Business Daily. For more news, programs, and documentaries, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream. I am Chiamaka Nwafor. Bye for now.